fishing a swimming jig is pretty easy as long as you keep in mind that you can do really everything with a swimming jig as you can with a spinnerbait. Basically, what you're doing is you're fishing a spinnerbait without the spinner on it. And when you're fishing a spinnerbait, conversely, you're fishing a jig with a spinner on it. So everything you can do, you fish that bait 6 inches deep, you fish it 6 foot deep, you can fish it 60 foot deep. You can run it up real fast on top of the water, get by a bush or a stump or a corner of a boat dock, stop, let it drop down. You can shake your rod tip with it, make it look like you're having a little deflection strike. Simplest thing in the world. I like to use a 1/4 ounce jig most of the time, but now we've used jigs all the way up to 1 ounce. I like to use a 1/4 ounce jig, and quite honestly, you don't have to buy a jig that says swimming jig. This is a 1/4 ounce Lucky Strike jig, football head jig, works great. And the tails you want to put on, I like a relatively short tail, something like a bomber mud minnow or a yum mud minnow, a yum pulse swim bait. All of those things work good, but something that's relatively short, that's got a lot of action on the tail. Not a twin tail usually, but a single. This seems to work really good. I fish it mostly with, depending on the water I'm fishing in, but most of the time I like to use it on about 15-pound high seas Grand Slam line, 6.5 foot rod. And you do the exact same things with a swim bait as you do with a spinner bait, except when you get a bite on a swim bait, you're going to want to hesitate just a little bit before you set the hook. If you're missing a fish, hesitate a little bit longer. But don't set it the moment they strike or you're going to miss a lot of those fish. Swim bait fishing, it's easy if you know how.